how to make a small weaving with the loom. What you'll need is your warp loom tool. We're using the Big A today, but you could use your Slingshot XL, Robot, or Chromosome. Your scissors, some yarn, a rod to hang your weaving when you're done, a tapestry needle, and this is optional, a piece of felt. I like to use this as a backing sometimes. Let's get started. Okay, so today what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you a couple stitches that we use the most when it comes to doing small weaving. Because the format is relatively small, the tabby stitch, which is the most basic stitch, is actually quite easy. And then I'm actually going to show you how to do a loop knot as well. Okay, so this project, small weaving, is perfect for yarn scraps because all you really need sometimes is just a foot or a couple feet of yarn. That's it, and it could make this beautiful, beautiful piece. So, okay, so my first stitch is going to be the tabby stitch, and this is the most basic stitch in all of weaving that you'll probably see. So it's fairly easy. What you'll do is you take your tapestry needle and you're gonna go under one, over the next, under the next, over, under, over. So basically it's under, over, under, over, under, over. You're just alternating that. You could also start with over, clearly. And as you pull through, you're just gonna leave about a 4-inch tail, bringing it down all the way to the bottom of your tool. And then now you're gonna go in the opposite direction. So if you ended with this yarn going over your warp, you're gonna go underneath it, and then over, under, over, under. So I'm gonna save that shot for a little bit so you can see. Super easy. The most important thing to remember is when you pull through, you don't want to pull too hard. As you see, when you pull hard too tight, it starts pulling your warp string in. Just do it enough so that it's, just sits comfortably over your yarn or your warp. And then with your needle or your finger, you can just push down your weft, and then over, under, in reverse. I'm going to do about 4 rows of this. You could go 5 as well if you like, up to you, or as much as you like. What I like to do sometimes is either freestyle, or if you're more of a planner as well, you could actually sketch out the color and the weave that you'll do. And as you get to know how to do small weave, or if you're already familiar with weaving, just sketch it out. It could be a nice guide for you. Okay, so I just did 5 rows there. Now I'm done. You could leave that long, or you could just cut that. I'm gonna actually cut it because I actually like just having my short tails. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna do a loop knot. So loop knots are basically these. So they're just gonna be fringes on my small weaving. I love loop knots because they only take 1 warp, but Ryan knot takes 2, and I love Ryan knots, but for this small format, we don't have enough warp. I usually do 1 big Ryan knot or 2 when I use that, and those are really pretty as well. But loop knots are great if you're just doing fringes. So what you do here, I just cut 30 pieces of about 6-inch pieces of yarn, 30 because I'm gonna actually put 5 on each of the warp. So bring them together, fold it in half so you have a little bit of a loop here. Then you're going to slide the loop under one of your warp. Wrap it around, and then just pull the tails through. Okay, so here, whoops. So you want to make sure you catch all your tails. Oops, I'm going to start over because I actually got a little too impatient there. So what you do is slide this in, have your loop. I'm going to gather my loops so that they're a little bit easier to pull through. Okay, so there you go. And then you just pull that down, pull it tight. You could help it by holding down your warp. So the thing to note, when you do any type of Ryan knot or a loop knot like this, you actually have to what we call lock it in. So you always have to have tabby stitches underneath it and then over it again. So I'll show you what I'll do next. Okay, so let's go all the way across here. Let's finish all of our loop knots. I love using colors for these small weaving. I think it's a great opportunity to be really bright and vibrant. I also love neutrals as well. It's, like I said again, such a great way for you to mix and match your scrap yarn. And these small weavings are great on gifts or on your inspiration board. They're just a nice kind of creative little keepsakes. So the next thing to do is to lock in your loops here. So I again have about 2 feet piece of yarn, and then I'm just going to go over, under, over, under. So what's really important to remember when you're doing a tabby stitch, let's say there weren't loop knots underneath here and there was another set or another color of tabby stitches or any stitches at all. So basically whatever yarn, your weft yarn here, if it's underneath the warp, whatever row you do next, it has to be the opposite of that, so it should be over it. So that's something to just keep in mind every time you do your stitches. All right, so this is over again. So you could use thicker yarn you like, you could use roving. I love roving on the small tool here because it just looks like puffy and just such a great texture. You could use thicker yarn as well, or even thinner yarn. So depending on what you have on, on hand and what look you're going for. So this is pretty much the tabby stitch. There are other stitches you could explore as well. Some other resources that you could go to are the Weaving Loom. Marianne Moody also has great videos, and I love Pat the Weaver. All of those are either on YouTube or online, and you could learn more stitches. And I'm going to end this right now with the tabby stitch. We're going to actually move to the next video where I'll show you how to finish it, where we'll use the rod and the felt pieces that we had at first.